You don't watch nature, you log into it. Birds aren't background. They're couriers in a living network carrying messages across wind-like packets on fiber. When you're tuned, a wingbeat is a ping, a call is a code, and the field answers faster than words. This film is a manual, not a myth. It reveals Thoth's nature communication protocol, a disciplined sequence of breath, golden light visualization, and a quiet mantra that forms a handshake with the avian chorus. No theatrics, no superstition, applied attention that realigns your nervous system with the intelligence everywhere around you. Used with humility, you don't talk to animals. You learn to listen until listening becomes dialogue. You will see the signs you've been missing, feel guidance land as calm knowing, and recover an old belonging. Human consciousness in chorus with the sky. If you can tune a radio, you can tune a life. Ready to log in? Thoth is not a character in a myth so much as an architect of attention. In the oldest echoes, he appears as the ibis-headed scribe who measures cycles, names, patterns, and keeps the ledger of what connects what. In this protocol, that legacy is practical. The world speaks in frequencies, and birds are the cleanest carriers of those signals because they live where the elements meet: air, light, and the edges of weather. The lineage I'm presenting describes 22 core tones. Treat them less like dogma and more like an alphabet. Each tone holds a quality of intelligence mirrored in a living archetype: raptors cutting thermals with surgical stillness, doves softening a space until your jaw unclenches, corvids arriving exactly when you're pretending you don't know the truth. You'll hear people reduce this to symbols: owl equals wisdom, hummingbird equals joy. But the real code isn't a list. It's a library, and the book that opens depends on the question you bring and the state you're in. When you stop consuming nature like scenery and start meeting it like kin, correspondences wake up. The hawk doesn't become your pet oracle. Your awareness becomes disciplined enough to detect the same pattern in different guises. Once you've felt a few of these clean correspondences, the world stops being random. It becomes legible. This is why intention matters more than technique. The protocol only amplifies what you bring. If you're chasing spectacle, you'll get static. If you come with service, the line clears. Picture a field of stations, each one broadcasting on a distinct band. Your breath sets the tuner. Your attention is the dial. Your heart state locks the signal. When the three line up, the encounter feels less like hearing words and more like a pressure that resolves into a knowing. It arrives as posture, timing, direction, a sudden calm that clicks a decision into place. Raptors press vision and purpose. Owls open hidden corridors. Parrots and jays push expression to the surface. Corvids hand you a mirror for the shadow you'd rather skip. Hummingbirds teach abundance as precise presence, not as noise. None of this is superstition when you're honest about context and you track outcomes. What repeats under integrity is rarely coincidence. It's instruction. The point isn't to force meaning onto birds. It's to let meaning reveal itself with unnerving consistency when your inner weather is honest. Some transmissions are too explicit for YouTube. Join our free newsletter via the link in the description, where we share the unfiltered protocol and field notes. For a limited time, you'll also receive a free ebook copy of our book the moment you enter your email. The oldest story says the ibis taught humans to keep time with breath, because breath is the only instrument you're born with that can tune you from scattered to coherent in under a minute. When breath steadies, attention stops thrashing. When attention steadies, pattern rises out of noise. That's the doorway to the alphabet. 22 is a sacred way of saying a complete set, but don't get lost in numerology. What matters is correspondence, qualities, meeting qualities. An owl at noon might be illness. An owl at dusk is a threshold. An owl that lands near you, then turns its face to where you refuse to look, is instruction. Hummingbirds are not generic good omens. They are concentrated energy, asking whether your focus is clean or caffeinated. Jays don't just mean voice. They test whether you'll speak a boundary without cruelty. Hawks don't just mean ambition. They align you with altitude and precision, which often means stepping back before you step forward. Corvids, crows, ravens, magpies don't only signal transformation, they often call your bluff. Are you willing to let something die so something true can breathe? You learn the alphabet by watching what happens after the encounter, not by collecting feathers like trophies. Records, not fantasies. Build literacy. Context writes half the sentence. Your state writes the rest. If this all sounds poetic, remember that poetry is just precision in another register. The ancients encoded what they noticed in forms that would survive. 1,000 years from now, a child will still recognize a hawk cutting a spiral against a white sky and understand that up is the message. The code is not locked in sarcophagi. It's written on the wind. What Thoth gives is a map so a modern mind, dulled by scrolls and schedules, can relearn how to read without romanticizing or appropriating. You are not summoning animals or stealing anyone's culture. You are consenting to coherence and allowing a very old conversation to resume. When attention is coherent, the field you're standing in has a way of answering with choreography, a sudden land, an unusual pause, 3 calls in even intervals, a glide that ends exactly when you relax a clenched decision. If you've ever had a morning where the same species showed up 3 times in places that didn't make sense, and then your day arranged itself around a single decision, you already know the feel. The difference now is, you'll name it, track it, and keep your perception honest enough to notice what is already occurring. A small story. Years ago, someone I mentored was choosing between 2 jobs. One paid more, the other felt clean. We sat on a bench under an ordinary morning, and he steadied his breath until the mind quieted. A kestrel appeared, hovering in that uncanny stillness they do, facing into the wind, eyes locked. He almost laughed. The picture was too sharp. Hover. Look longer. Don't lunge. He waited 3 weeks, watched what clarified, and took the clean one. The pay rose 6 months later. The integrity never wavered. The bird didn't speak English. It modeled the move. Here's the discipline. Approach the library with humility. Make your ask small, and keep your senses honest. Don't force species into boxes. Context matters. A raven over a cliff in winter, in silence, is not the same tone as a raven chasing chips in a noisy car park. The message is a chord. Species, behavior, timing, weather outside, weather inside. The more you track, the clearer the correspondences become, and the less tempted you'll be to project what you want to hear. Write what actually happened. Note what you felt before the bird appeared. Notice what shifted in you after. When records replace fantasies, guidance stops being vague comfort and starts being usable. If you've never felt any of this, that does not disqualify you. It simply means your tuner needs warmth. City living narrows the band. Algorithms shorten your breath. That's why this protocol begins with physiology, not belief. Belief is flimsy. Breath is mechanical. We will set the tuner in the next part. For now, let this land. The code is not owned by a priesthood. It's public domain. The gate is ethical, not esoteric. Intention selects the shelf. Attention reads the page. Gratitude returns the book. A library is useless until you learn its alphabet. In a moment, we'll trace the letters with your lungs so the first words can find you. You don't need a shrine, a costume, or a mountain. You need a body, some quiet, and the willingness to be precise. Start with place. Somewhere you can see open sky, or at least feel moving air. A doorway works, a balcony works, a patch of grass works. The point is contact. Switch the phone to airplane mode. Not because technology is evil, but because pings are counterfeit bells, and this session belongs to a different clock. Sit, or stand with a spine that feels like it could hold a thin column of light. Let your jaw soften. Let your eyes widen without strain, like you're trying to see the whole horizon at once. This is your signal to the nervous system, safe enough to open. The breath is the tuner. The pattern we use is simple on paper and exacting in practice. In through the nose for a count of 4, hold for 7, out through the mouth for 8, like you're slowly fogging a window. The numbers aren't superstition. They're a rhythm that pulls your physiology out of scatter and into coherence. On the inhale, you gather. On the hold, you organize. On the exhale, you release. The first few rounds will feel like work because the mind is used to supervising. Let it have one job. Count. 4, 7, 8. 4, 7, 8. Keep the breath smooth, not heroic. If you get lightheaded, shorten the counts by a notch and continue. After 3 to 5 rounds, you'll feel the subtle drop. Shoulders lower, thoughts widen, time stops rushing. That drop is the doorway. Now the visualization, which is not pretending, it is instruction. Imagine a warm, golden light pooling just behind your breastbone. Not harsh, not performative, just a steady lamp. On the inhale, the light gathers there. On the hold, it brightens. On the exhale, let it expand through your chest, across your shoulders, and out into the space around you like a quiet dawn. The purpose is not to make something mystical happen, but to tell your body and the field that you are available and attuned. Your biology understands this imagery. Golden light is a stand-in for coherent attention and an invitation to the network to meet you halfway. If this feels difficult, simplify. Feel warmth in the chest as you breathe. Imagine that warmth softening the air around you. Subtle is stronger than forced. Add the mantra, not as noise, but as a bridge. It should be almost silent, a felt vibration on the exhale. Choose a phrase that means, I am listening, without begging or grasping. Something like, I am here or available, or a single tone hummed softly that you can sustain through the 8 count without strain. The content matters less than the quality. Respectful, steady, unneedy. You are not summoning birds as if they are props. You are announcing coherence and asking for a lawful conversation with the field that birds inhabit with more honesty than we do. Keep the breath count. Keep the lamp. Let the mantra ride the exhale like a sail. This is the sequence. Breath tunes, light opens, mantra bridges. After 3 to 7 minutes, long enough for the body to stop fidgeting, not so long that you drift, you will feel the texture change. It often arrives as a broadening of perception, like the edges of your awareness have moved outward a few meters. Sounds separate. Wind has layers. Space feels friendly. This is the moment to set the simplest intention, not a demand for a miracle. A small, clean question shaped like a doorway. What do I need to see today? Or, is this direction clean? Or, may I be guided to serve balance? Ask once, inwardly. Don't keep knocking. Silence, after a clear ask, is not rejection. It's respect for the conversation. The response rarely comes as a sentence. It comes as choreography, a sudden pause in the air where everything seems to hold its breath. A single call repeated at even intervals 3 times. A wing that cuts across your field of view exactly when your mind relaxes its grip on an idea. A feeling of calm certainty landing in your belly that wasn't there before and has no good reason to be this steady other than the fact that the field just said yes. If a bird appears, don't lurch into significance. Let the context write half the message. Species, behavior, direction, timing, your inner state before and after. A jay blasting a boundary at the fence when you're avoiding a hard conversation is different from a jay idling in a park while you daydream about moving cities. Same bird, different sentence. The discipline is to notice without forcing and to record what actually happened, not what you wish it meant. There are safeguards woven into this method because ethics are not an appendix. They are the gate. Never try to bait or corner wildlife. Never use food as leverage. Unless you are participating in legitimate care with permission. Never test the field with tricks. Gratitude at the end is not a polite flourish. It closes the circuit. A quiet thank you, a small bow, a bowl of clean water left in a safe place, a promise to pick litter on your next walk. The network remembers reciprocity. If you sense impatience or grasping rising in you, stop. The most respectful sentence you can offer when you're cloudy is, "Not my will, the balance's will." This keeps you from turning the protocol into a vending machine for signs. If you need a simple cadence for your first sessions, let it be this: 2 minutes to arrive and soften, 3 minutes of 4, 7, 8 with the golden lamp, 2 to 3 minutes of breath with the quiet mantra, 1 clean question asked once, 90 seconds of stillness to watch the first reply, which might be a shift in wind, an insect chorus changing gear, or simply your nervous system unclenching, because the answer is, wait. Then gratitude and release. That's 7 to 10 minutes, enough to begin teaching your body that this doorway exists and can be used without drama, hype, or superstition. Do it at roughly the same time each day for a week if you can. Dawn and dusk are generous because the avian network is most talkative then, but lunch in a courtyard has worked for many people in cities who have nothing but a sliver of sky and the willingness to be sincere. Skepticism is welcome. It keeps you honest. What dissolves skepticism is not persuasive language, but results you didn't manufacture. When, after a few sessions, you notice that your choices are cleaner, your timing is less clumsy, and encounters with certain species cluster around specific questions, you will not need anyone to convince you. You will have data, not lab data, but life data, the only kind that changes behavior. If nothing seems to happen at first, that's a result too. It tells you the tuner needs more warmth, the questions need to be smaller, or the motive needs cleaning. Adjust one variable at a time. Keep the breath. Keep the lamp. Keep the mantra as a bridge, not a drumbeat. Once tuned, the network tends to answer before you ask, because your whole way of moving starts to ask different questions without words. A calmer walk is a request for a calmer world. A steadier breath is a vote for steady weather inside. Birds meet you where you meet them, honestly, briefly, and with purpose. The method is simple because the conversation is old. We are not adding something to the world. We are removing the interference. In the next part, we will explore how to recognize the call when it arrives, so you don't miss the reply you just requested. You've tuned the set. Now you need to hear the station. Recognition is less about adding meaning and more about removing hurry. When you're coherent, replies arrive in 3 broad ways that often braid together: precise synchronicity, pre-sensing, and respectful dialogue. Synchronicity is the moment the outer world lands on the exact beat of your inner question with a specificity that embarrasses statistics. You're wondering whether to reach out to someone you hurt, and a single dove lands within arm's length and holds your gaze for the length of 3 slow breaths. You're weighing a hard pivot, and a raven drops into the only bare branch in view and turns to the exact valley your gut keeps pointing at. Pre-sensing is the subtle one. The skin knows before the eyes do. You feel a soft pressure, a widening, a flick in your periphery that announces attention here, and a second later the bird you somehow knew was there reveals itself. Dialogue is the cleanest of all. You hold a quiet, honest question, and an unmistakable behavior answers. Song, flight, pause, once, twice, 3 times, clearly bound to the timing of your ask. You don't muscle any of this. You stop a little, listen a lot, and let choreography carry the message. The simplest way to train recognition is to shrink the window and give it edges. Settle, ask once, and grant 90 seconds for a first reply. You're not limiting nature, you're shaping your attention. If nothing arrives in that window, you thank the field and move on. Many replies come later, when you've stopped clutching the question, and your posture has softened enough to notice what wants to be seen. Do not interrogate the landscape. A question asked every 5 seconds is noise. One offered with sincerity and space is music. This is why we go light on caffeine before practice. Stimulants mimic urgency, and urgency speaks too loudly to hear small truths. A story to show the feel. A woman stood at the edge of taking her mother into her home. Love said yes. Fear said you won't cope. She did the protocol beside a small river. Breath, lamp, bridge. One question, is my home the clean move? The world held its breath. Even the water seemed to hush. Then 3 wagtails landed in a stepped triangle on the rocks ahead. 1, 2, 3, each bowing in loose sequence, then all 3 turning, in the same 2 seconds, to face downstream, tails wagging, heads high. She laughed and cried at once. The shape said household, the bow said welcome, the turn said flow with it. Weeks later, when it was hardest, she remembered the wagtail's rhythm and found her own. You will be tempted to canonize behaviors. Resist the cookbook. Context writes half the sentence. Your state writes the rest. A long liquid glide can be a yes, or it can be rise above pettiness, or wait until heat breaks. A jay's blast can be speak the boundary, or simply you're trespassing, step back. A robin that hops close and holds eye contact at dawn will feel like a small blessing. The same robin at midday in a busy garden might be as neutral as a bus timetable. What repeats under integrity becomes meaning for you. What repeats only when you're straining is projection. The difference is felt as steadiness. Clean messages leave calm in their wake. Pre-sensing deserves its own attention because it grows with practice and saves you from missing half the conversation. It begins like a pressure change in an aeroplane just before descent. The ears don't pop, but something inside understands a layer has shifted. You might feel a soft cool on the cheek, a minute raising of the skin on the forearms, or a widening of the listening field as if someone opened a window behind your eyes. The mind will want to hunt. Don't. Stay soft-eyed. Trust that the bird or the behavior will disclose itself without chase. Chasing collapses the field. Receiving expands it. Over time, you'll catch the microsignals so early that you're turning your head to the right place before the wing cuts air, and you'll smile because the conversation has stopped being a novelty and started being routine. Dialogue is where many people trip because it's so clean it feels staged. It isn't. You ask, is this the day to make the call? And the crow on the post gives a single, even caw. You breathe. It gives another. You relax the shoulders, a third, equidistant in time, then silence. The rhythm matches your breath. The sequence ceases when the body settles. You ask, is this route safe? An kestrel holds a hover in the wind, exactly above the path for the length of the question, then slides off when you step. You ask, where am I avoiding truth? And a magpie lands, cocks its head, and pecks the one corner of your bag you never sort. These aren't parlor tricks. They are lawful overlaps between your coherent attention and a world that has always mirrored coherence back to itself. The discipline is to mark the timing. If the behavior clearly binds to the beat of your ask, you're in a dialogue. If it doesn't, wait for a cleaner thread. There are misreads. Sometimes a bird is simply a bird. Sometimes hunger and schedules make creatures do what they do regardless of your dilemmas. Humility keeps you safe. Hold 2 truths at once. The world can speak to you, and it does not revolve around you. If you're unsure, default to caution, not fantasy. Ask for a second sign later in the day, and let it find you without hunting. Pay attention to repetition over days rather than demanding theater in a single outing. Guidance that belongs to you returns until you can bear it. Journaling anchors recognition. Immediately after an encounter, on your phone later, or in a small field notebook, capture 5 things: date and time, species or best guess, behavior and direction, the question you held, your inner weather before and after. 2 lines each is enough. The magic is not in the poetry, it's in the pattern you'll see after a week, a month, a season. The hawk that shows when you're about to overextend, The crow that arrives when you're tempted to say yes while your body says no. The finch that keeps threading abundance into ordinary days when you hold gratitude instead of scarcity. This is how literacy is built, not by superstition, but by attention that survives moods. What about silence? Silence is not failure. Silence can be instruction. No question today. Go do the obvious. Or, you're tired. Sleep first. Or, you are trying to use us to avoid a conversation. Go have it, then ask again. Silence can be the field protecting itself from your impatience. When you feel shut out, simplify the ask to gratitude. Pick up litter. Fill a bird bath. Walk without questions for 3 days and then return. Respect earns access the way noise earns static. Finally, care for the edge states. Rain, thresholds of light at dawn and dusk, first winds before a storm, the hour after grief, the breath after a sincere apology. These are charged edges where the veil thins and replies are quick and clear. If you can, put your practice on those edges, not because drama lives there, but because honesty does. The network answers honesty with choreography so clean you'll think you imagined it until your choices stop wobbling and your day moves like a body with its joints oiled. Recognizing the call is not about becoming a sign hunter. It's about allowing life to resume a conversation it never ended. Ask small, listen large, record without embroidery, and let meaning prove itself through your own steadiness. In the next part, we'll draw the line between lawful curiosity and the impatience that slams the door, because signal without ethics becomes noise, and noise is how old technologies get mistaken for superstition. Power without posture breaks things. This protocol is simple, yes, but it is not casual. The same way a clear river can be muddied by one careless step, a clean channel closes fast when approached with grasping hands. Ethics are not decoration, they are the lock and the key. If you hold the right frequency, the door opens on its own. If you don't, no amount of technique will force it. That's mercy, not punishment. A world that answers will always test why you're asking. Begin with motive, because motive is the current running under every word. If the question is, how do I get? The line crackles. If the question is, how do I serve the balance? The line clears. Balance is the title God goes by when you're not sure which name to use. Ask the small, clean questions that improve your integrity first. The apology you owe, the rush you can put down, the boundary you can speak without venom. When you tidy your side of the field trusts you with more. Birds are not oracles on demand. They are citizens of a law that rewards coherence. Meet that law, and your family. Violate it, and you're tourist. The difference is obvious to everything that lives outside your head. Impatience is the first door slammer. Impatience sounds like tapping the glass of an aquarium, asking the same thing 5 different ways in 30 seconds, scanning the horizon with hungry eyes. It's loud in a way that drives shy creatures away and invites only the boldest, and bold does not mean truest. If you notice urgency rising, name it and stop. Place a hand on your chest and make your questions smaller until you can ask without clenched muscles. Is this direction clean? Is better than, will I be successful forever? What act of care belongs to me today? Is better than, when will life finally reward me? The field answers in present tense. You earn future tense by acting on what you're given now. Ego is the second door slammer. Ego in this practice is not self-respect. It's appetite dressed as spirituality. It wants to collect feathers and stories to shine the self. It wants to post a photo beside a rare bird and harvest the likes. It wants to be the one with access, the chosen one at the edge of the forest. But this is not a status game. If you've done anything in life that required craft, music, code, surgery, carpentry, you already know the nature of real power. It hates spectacle and loves repetition. Do the small things well, again and again. Keep your encounters quiet until silence becomes your default, and disclosure is an act of service, not an advertisement. The less you brag, the more the world trusts you with moments worth keeping. Control is the third door slammer. Control in this context looks like summoning, baiting, advancing where you're not invited, and engineering an outcome to prove a point to yourself or to someone else. You don't need that. This practice is a conversation, not an extraction. Leave food out only where it is lawful, safe, and part of a legitimate care pattern, not as a lure to bend a message to your will. Do not follow a creature into stress. If you step and the body in front of you tenses, step back. If you feel the field constrict, you're pushing. The clean move is always the softer move. Ask once. Let space breathe. Return later if the day says, not now. Reciprocity keeps the channel alive. Gratitude isn't a mood, it's a behavior. Bow your head when you receive something clean. Refill the bird bath. Pick the plastic from the reed bed. Plant native. Keep a little silence where noise is normal. Every offering says, I understand this isn't about me. The network remembers that. When you show up as caretaker, the conversation deepens, and the answers tilt from, here's how to keep your little life steady, to, here's how to keep a wider life steady. That's the promotion. From personal reassurance to participation in repair. It's quieter than you expect, and more satisfying than anything you can buy. Keep your boundaries with the unseen as carefully as with the seen. If a message feels invasive, frightening, or coated in glamour, pause. Clean signal lands as steadiness, even when it asks for courage. Dirty signal lands as agitation, compulsion, or grandiosity. You are allowed to say no. You are allowed to say only what serves balance. You are allowed to close the session with a palm over the heart and a simple sentence, not my will, the balance's will. That sentence has ended more delusions than any lecture. If you're tired, hungry, angry, or lonely, feed the body and sleep before you ask for guidance. Your nervous system paints the sky with its weather. Don't mistake your storm for an omen. Consent applies both ways. Do not drag others into this practice without their agreement. Do not read for someone who hasn't asked. Do not use the protocol to pry into the private lives of people or places. Curiosity without consent is theft dressed as interest. The field will pinch the line if you do this often, and you'll wonder why the world went quiet. Silence is sometimes discipline. Accept it, tidy up, and start again with smaller requests that belong to you. There are quiet safeguards for when you feel out of your depth. One is to return to the body and do nothing mystical at all. Drink water, feel your feet, soften your jaw, breathe like a person who has time. Another is to offer a tiny act of care with no witness, a handful of seed in winter where it's permitted, a basin of fresh water during heat, a few minutes of litter, picking after a storm. The fastest way to clear interference is to act as if the world you want is already true, and you're one of its stewards. Regal temples are unnecessary. Clean pavements and a ritual of refilling a bowl can be holy in the right hands. When you are wrong, and we all are sometimes, apologize the way you would to a neighbor whose fence you leaned on too hard. I was clumsy. I came with grasping. I'll slow down, then actually slow down. Shorten the session. Ask for nothing for 3 days. Offer care without ask. The channel doesn't hold grudges. It holds standards. The door reopens when your posture does. If you need a simple ethical compass, hold these 3 sentences in your pocket. I will not take more than I return. I will not ask what I am unwilling to act on. I will not use what I learn to rise over others. I will use it to move beside them. Say them under your breath before you practice and watch what changes. Not outside first, inside. Your questions become cleaner. Your asks become smaller and more precise. The replies become steadier and, in time, more subtle, because you no longer need theater to trust what you're given. A last caution for glamour. The world is hungry for spectacle. Ignore that hunger. The most reliable messages are often small and almost embarrassingly practical. Drink water now. Wait 1 day. Take the second street. Call your father. Apologize without explaining yourself. Leave 10 minutes earlier. Sit under that tree and stop arguing with a life that is trying to help you. If you can treat these tiny directives as sacred as the rarest visitation, you'll never lose the thread. The rare will find you when you have proven you can be trusted with the ordinary. Hold to this, and you won't need elaborate protections. The ethics are the protection. They tune you to a frequency where only what belongs can reach you, and where your own appetite can't dress itself as guidance. When you live like that, your notebook stops being a scrapbook of nice moments and starts reading like a ledger of clean causes and effects. The channel steadies, the drama drains. What remains is a working relationship with a living world. When the posture is clean, the alphabet opens. In the next part, we'll read from the field guide itself, the 7 message streams most people meet first, and how to tell a blessing from a boundary without turning life into a cookbook. You're not looking for a dictionary, you're listening for a choir. What follows are 7 streams that tend to show up first, the big rivers that carry most people's early messages. Treat each stream as a quality of intelligence that certain species are unusually good at carrying. The meaning is a chord, species, behavior, timing, direction, weather outside, weather inside. When you track the chord rather than chase a single note, guidance lands with that unmistakable steadiness we keep pointing to. Transformation and rebirth arrive on dark wings more often than not. Corvids, crows, ravens, magpies, and the cleaner faces of decay like vultures are the specialists here. They don't bring doom, they bring the request to release what's already dead, so something living can breathe. A single raven riding a cold updraft over a habit you've been defending is not a threat, it's a surgeon's calm. A trio of crows appearing at the same crossroads across 3 mornings is not random, it's a drumbeat. Decide. Watch the behavior. Are they circling, driving you to look up and out of your rut? Are they landing and walking, asking you to get practical about endings? Cancel the subscription, pack the box, write the last email. The caution: don't romanticize shadow. If the corvids show and you feel grandiose, you've left the stream and waded into theater. Clean transformation leaves you quieter and more exact, not louder. Vision and purpose tend to ride on raptors. Hawks, eagles, kites, kestrels hold a tone that cuts through busyness and hands you altitude. The message is rarely "go faster." It's usually "go higher, see cleaner, move once." A hawk that carves a slow spiral above you when you're forcing a decision isn't rushing you. It's modeling a wider orbit. A kestrel's hover is the picture you need when you're tempted to lunge. Stay, lock, choose with stillness. Direction matters. A raptor crossing from your left to your right as you consider taking on a new obligation may be inviting a move from past to future. The same bird wheeling behind you might be saying, "Don't look there. What you need isn't in that story." Caution. Ambition likes to borrow raptor costumes. If you feel heat and edge, wait. True. Vision feels cool and inevitable, like a path that's been there all along. Love and union wear softer bodies, doves and pigeons most often. They don't just mean romance, they mean repair, softening, and the restoration of belonging. A dove, landing inside your personal space and holding the gaze while your chest is tight, is an invitation to unclench before you speak. 2 birds preening each other after an argument you're about to reignite is a reminder. Tend, don't win. A single feather on your doorstep on the morning of a hard conversation is often the world saying, "Arrive with mercy." The caution: don't force sentiment onto neutral scenes. If you're reading doves as permission to avoid truth, you've missed the stream. Love here means the courage to be gentle and the gentleness to be brave. Abundance and manifestation are quick and precise when they come through hummingbirds and finches. Hummingbirds are concentrated attention in a body. They ask whether your focus is clean or caffeinated. If a hummer holds a hover in your eyeline the hour you're about to scatter into 8 tabs, The thread is clear, one thing, now, with joy. Finches, linnets, goldfinches, house finches carry the tone of modest plenty. They don't promise jackpots. They point you to the small, repeatable moves that add up, the neighborly trade, the consistent craft, the garden you tend. If finches keep showing when you hold gratitude, note the pairing. Appreciation widens flow. Caution. Abundance in this stream isn't shopping permission. If you feel the itch to spend to feel, pause. Abundance here feels like enoughness before the purchase. Protection and hidden wisdom step out from shadow on silent wings. Owls own this current. Their presence in your practice is often a threshold marker. Something in the dark is ready to be named, or something delicate is asking for guarding. An owl at dusk on moving day is blessing and watchfulness. An owl that lands and turns its face. Remember, an owl's face is a dish for sound. To the one corner of your life you never examine is an invitation to listen where you don't. Daytime owls are rarer. When they appear, double your humility and widen your caution. They can signal illness, imbalance, or a mistimed push. The feel of protection is less superhero and more cloak. You find yourself moving unseen, where you'd usually be noisy, and it's a relief. Expression and voice arrive with parrots and jays, creatures that have no problem taking up sonic space. Parrots ask whether your song is yours or borrowed. Jays demand a boundary be spoken cleanly. A jay's blast when you're swallowing a no is the nudge you asked for. A flock of parakeets lighting up the park as you draft the first chapter you've hidden for years is a green light to sound exactly like yourself without apologizing. Note the difference between volume and truth. If you feel the urge to perform or dominate, you're out of the stream. True voice lands as clarity with no need to crush anyone else. Rare divine interventions are precisely that, rare. They arrive as out-of-place messengers that snap the trance and redirect destiny. A seabird inland, an alpine species at the shore, a bird making improbable contact across a sealed space. These are exceptions that rewrite the schedule. When they arrive, you don't need a guru. You'll know. The day bends. The call you've been avoiding rings on its own. The train you missed saves your life. The caution is obvious. Do not manufacture rarity. If you're hunting anomalies, you'll miss instruction hiding in the ordinary. Let the rare find you because you've proven you treat the everyday as holy. Thread all 7 streams with behavior, not just names. Flight versus perch, glide versus flap, approach versus avoidance. Call once, call thrice, or silence. Left to right to left, toward you, away from you. Dawn, noon, dusk, all of it composes meaning. A single crow, walking directly toward you, head low, pausing every 3 steps as you weigh an apology carries a different tone than a dozen crows grid-searching a field while you doom-scroll. A hummingbird drinking deeply, then resting on a bare twig after you've closed 10 distracting tabs is a benediction on your choice. A kestrel that hovers, then abandons the hover and perches when you decide to postpone a risky move is modeling what your calendar needs. Give yourself 14 days with a simple field log to make this real. Each entry, date and time, species or best guess, behavior, direction, weather outside, weather inside, question held, if any, what shifted after, 2 or 3 sentences each. Don't try to be poetic, be accurate. At the end of the fortnight, read for repetition. Which stream keeps visiting? Under what inner weather? What action reliably follows a clean encounter? Literacy is not memorizing meanings. It's recognizing your patterns of correspondence and acting on them with humility. 2 cautions keep this section honest. First, context is king. An owl in a rehabilitation center is not a message, it's a patient. A gull at a landfill is not a prophecy, it's lunch. Be kind to animals and to meaning. Second, beware the high of being special. If you feel chosen and separate, you've wandered into glamour. The channel is democratic. It will close to protect both you and the field. Steadiness is the signature of the real. When these streams stabilize, when corvids find you at honest endings, when raptors arrive as you choose altitude over speed, when doves soften your jaw before you open your mouth, when finches thread gratitude through an ordinary Tuesday, you'll know the alphabet has settled in your body. That's when a vow becomes appropriate, not as theater, but as maintenance. In the next part, we'll name the once-in-a-lifetime rite that seals the channel the quiet way. A new moon promise with 7 found feathers, clean water, and a beliefs sentence you're willing to live by. A channel that stays open is not a louder channel, it is a steadier one. That's the point of the sealing rite the old schools guarded. A promise you make to balance, witnessed by the living world, that turns intermittent signal into a quiet current humming beneath your days. It isn't a spell, it's maintenance. Think of it as agreeing to show up long after the novelty fades. When practice has been consistent for at least a moon, when your notes show real correspondences and your asks are small and honest, you're ready to consider it. If you're in a season of turmoil, wait. Oaths said in a storm are dramatic. Oaths kept in clear weather endure. The old instruction is simple and exacting. New moon, 7 found feathers, clean water, a bowl, a piece of ground where you can be unobserved by the human world for an hour. Found matters. You aren't plucking life, you're collaborating with what it already released. They need not be rare or exotic. Pigeon, dove, crow, jay, let the place choose you. Wash your hands. Turn the phone off, not silent, off. This hour belongs to signal, not interruption. Arrive before dark, while the contour of the land is still visible, and wait through the slide into night. That edge between light and not is the hinge. It tells the nervous system, threshold. Start with the body, because the body is the altar. Sit or stand as you have been practicing, jaw soft, eyes wide, spine dignified. 3 rounds of the 4, 7, 8 to gather and settle. Not many, just enough for the breath to widen and the mind to stop giving orders. Imagine the golden lamp warm behind the breastbone, and let that light softly expand until it feels like you're standing inside a small sphere of dawn. Place the bowl in front of you, fill it with the clean water you brought, and set the 7 feathers around it in a loose circle, tips pointing outward like compass points. Don't arrange them to look impressive. Arrange them so they feel honest. This isn't an altar photo, this is a radio. Name the 4 directions under your breath, not as theater, but as orientation. North for structure, east for beginnings, south for life force, west for endings, or whatever associations your lineage and land speak. If you don't have a system, make it plain. The rock side, the sunrise side, the warm side, the river side. The point is to locate yourself inside the world you're addressing. Place your hands over the bowl and let the warm lamp move down your arms into the water. You're not infusing it with magic. You're bringing your full attention to the simplest element that carries life. In a world of scarcity stories, a bowl of clean water is a vow all by itself. Now the vow, which must be brief enough to remember and serious enough to change you. Write it beforehand and carry it folded. Read it once aloud, then speak it without the paper. It might sound like this: from this day, may my attention serve balance. May I ask only what I will act on. May I take nothing I will not return. Or, I seal this channel, not to rise above others, but to move beside them. May what I receive become care. Your words, not mine. If your chest tightens on a phrase, adjust it until the body nods. The body knows what it can keep. Dip your fingers into the water and touch a little to the center of your chest, then to the crown of your head, then to the backs of your hands. The first is for coherence, the second for clarity, the third for work, the reminder that guidance is not just for feeling, it is for doing. Lift each feather and, with a breath, thank the life it once belonged to. Not a eulogy, a thank you. Lay it back down. When all 7 have been acknowledged, take one slow circuit of the circle clockwise. barefoot if the place allows, and pay attention to the ground. Uneven earth teaches humility in a language you cannot fake. If your mind starts narrating, return to breath. The rite is not words, it's posture. There may be a sign, a sudden wind that rises and drops, a quiet landing in the near darkness, 3 even calls, spaced like a metronome. Do not hunt for it. If it comes, receive it as you would a neighbor's nod on an evening walk. Real, unspectacular, enough. If nothing comes, that too is instruction. Vows are about your keeping, not the world's performance. You are promising to show up. The network already does. Close with reciprocity. Pour the water slowly back into the ground, or into a base of roots, or into a stream if you're permitted, and certain it does no harm. Leave the feathers only if they were taken from that place, and leaving them does not cause confusion or risk for animals. Otherwise, carry them home and keep them in a plain container where you'll see them, and remember the sentence you spoke. Make a small offering, a minute picking plastic from grass, a few seeds in winter where it is lawful and safe, a litter bag carried out. It is impossible to seal a channel to a living world and not become, in some modest way, its steward. There are red flags that mean, not yet. If you are bargaining, you're not ready. If you are performing for an imagined audience, you're not ready. If you're making the vow to get something rather than to give yourself to something, you're not ready. That's fine. This practice is not a race, and rites rushed become superstition. Keep showing up with the basic method. Keep notes. Let your questions make you smaller and more exact. The day will arrive when you realize you've already been keeping the vow in practice. The rite merely catches up to name what is true. Afterward, do not expect fireworks. Expect quieter noise inside your life. Expect fewer but cleaner coincidences. Expect a kind of domestic magic where the door you needed opens at the moment it should, where you leave 5 minutes earlier than usual and miss the mess by 4. Expect, most of all, a steadiness that makes you boring to your old appetite for drama. You won't be less alive. You will be less interested in making life prove itself. You'll be busy keeping a simple sentence you said to a bowl of water and 7 soft witnesses who have better things to do than flatter you. If the rite changes you at all, it will be in your calendar. People love to be transformed in poetry and unchanged in schedule. The ceiling shows in the day, in the 5 minutes you spend refilling a basin before you check messages, in the walk you take at dusk, because the edge of light is now a bell, in the way you ask smaller questions and act on the answers fast. You will sleep more easily because you're not negotiating with every sign. You will speak more gently because you are no longer trying to win the sky's attention. You will work more cleanly because you have sworn to turn transmissions into care. A final reminder, nothing in this rite is proprietary. If a teacher tells you the door belongs to them, the door will move. If a part of you wants to declare yourself initiated and above the crowd, you've missed the point. Sealed channels are not louder, they are steadier. The world trusts steady. That's the whole technology. In the next part, we'll talk about aptitude and sensitivity, not to crown a few, but to reassure many. Some of you will find this easier because your ears were trained somewhere you barely remember. Others will find it slower because the city and the schedule pressed your senses into narrow lanes. Either way, the door is public, the gate is ethical, and the practice, sealed or not, is for anyone willing to keep showing up. Some of you felt the door swing on the first try. Others are still standing with a hand on the handle, wondering if you imagined the hinge. Both are normal. Sensitivity is not a badge, it's a bandwidth, and bandwidth is shaped by history, habitat, and how willing you are to be quiet when the world asks. If you find this work easy, it's rarely because you're special. More often, it's because your senses were trained sometime, somewhere, this life or the last, to treat wind, light, and rhythm as language. If you find it slow, that's not a verdict. It's your nervous system asking for rehabilitation after years of fluorescent light, constant scroll, and the factory bell in a new costume. Notifications. There are signs of predisposition that show up early. Children who notice birds before anyone else, who go quiet at the sound of wings, who can sit still at dawn without being told. Adults who animals lean on, the dog that falls asleep against your shin, the cat that chooses your lap first, the horse that calms when you exhale. People who dream of flying not as spectacle but as orientation, lucid, controlled, with the sensation of air on the face and a reliable landing. Others hear with odd precision. They can pick the fourth voice out of a crowded room or track a kettle's first whisper from the next floor. Many feel at home in high places or under big sky. The element of air suits them, and ether, spaciousness, doesn't scare them. If any of this sounds like you, consider it memory rather than talent. Memory reactivates faster than instruction. Modern life is not neutral to senses tuned for chorus. Cities compress attention. Constant noise floors, HVAC, traffic, refrigeration hums fill the bottom of your hearing with static. Screens teach your eyes to live at one focal distance. Pacing between climate-controlled boxes confuses your inner weather because nothing outside changes inside. You are not broken. Your instrument needs restringing. Start with easy wins that don't require a monastery. Touch air first thing, doorway, balcony, open window, before you touch a screen. Give your eyes a horizon twice a day, even if it's a line of rooftops. Replace a tenth of your headphone time with raw sound, so your ears remember their own range. 15 minutes. Outside at the edges of light dawn or dusk does more to widen bandwidth than an hour at noon. This is physiology, not romance. A refinement drill for hearing that I give to people who think they have none. Pick a dawn or dusk. Stand still. Close your eyes if it helps. List the layers of sound without naming sources, just where they sit in the space. Low, mid, high, far, near, left, right, behind. After a minute, try to separate one thread and follow it as it moves or stops. Let it go. Pick another. Repeat for 5 minutes. Do not strain. Straining makes you deaf to smallness. What you're training is not identification but discrimination, the ability to hold more than one channel without grabbing. After a week of this, return to the protocol and notice how the field now has depth. The birds didn't get louder, you got wider. If EMF and urban density are worries, keep your sanity. You don't need paranoia to practice respect. The aim isn't to build a bunker, it's to reduce interference. Airplane mode during sessions is enough for most. If you live under power lines or a cell tower and you feel fizzy, take your practice to a park, a cemetery, a river path, a school field after hours, places with sky and less electrical chatter. If you can't leave your building, put a plant by the window and let your eyes rest in green before you start. Plants hold stillness the way stones hold time. A bowl of water on a sill does wonders. Water teaches your breath how to move. None of this is mystical. It is mechanical compassion for a body doing its best. A story to give you the feel of predisposition meeting practice. A man in his 40s insisted he was tone deaf to nature. He lived above a busy road, slept next to a router, and worked under a vent. We did 10 minutes of breath, lamp, bridge on a car park roof at dusk, because that was the only patch of sky near his office. He named 3 sounds in layers. The 4th time, he paused and smiled. "There's a thread behind the traffic," he said. We waited. The thread landed on the concrete barrier, a black red start, common as dust in some cities, and a miracle when you first meet one. It bobbed, flicked, and sang a fragment like cut metal made sweet. He didn't cry until the 2nd time it came, 2 days later, at lunch, when he wasn't trying to prove anything. After that, the roof became his chapel. He moved his router. He walked before screens. The bird didn't make him sensitive. It met the sensitivity he was willing to reclaim. Past life language can be a trap or a mercy. Use it as mercy. If you feel at home here fast, perhaps you apprenticed to the sky before. If you don't, perhaps your apprenticeship is beginning now. Either way, entitlement is the one thing that will lock the door. The field does not owe you visibility because you feel called. Callings are invitations to practice, not discounts at the counter. Keep showing up, keep asking smaller, keep acting on what you're given. The door swings on hinges, named humility and repetition. Your home can become an ally rather than an obstacle. Place a small bowl of water on a balcony or ledge where it is safe for birds and safe from predators. Keep it clean. Notice who visits and when. Plant something native in a pot. Even one plant is a relationship. Keep one corner of your day quiet at the same time so the world can find you with rhythm. Sensitivity loves rhythm. That's why the dawn chorus feels like a login tone. The whole system warms up at once. You can warm up too by showing the same face to the same hour, like a lighthouse keeping its agreements with the sea. When sensitivity rises, you'll meet the subtle tests of appetite. There is a thrill to being chosen by a wild thing, a rush when a bird lands closer than seems reasonable, a sparkle when a message lands so clean you could drink it. Enjoy it, and then let it pass. If you chase the rush, you will start pushing for theater and call it practice. If you harvest encounters for your feed, the channel will pinch to protect itself. Keep the best moments for yourself until sharing them is service. Your senses will deepen in that privacy. They always do. If you've tried all this and still feel dense, consider your nervous system as a tired animal, not an enemy. Rest it, feed it, give it light in the morning and less light at night. Let silence into the house an hour before bed. Ask nothing of the field for a week and just pick litter or fill bowls. Then return. You might find that nothing was wrong except pace. A lot of modern blockage is simply exhaustion wearing a robe. Sensitivity is not the end of the arc. It is the equipment check before the work. Once your ears widen and your breath knows the doorway without counting, guidance will stop being a private comfort and start asking for public usefulness. That's the maturity of this practice, from personal insight to participation. In the next part, we'll step into that, how to lend your steadiness to place, how to use attention like a small lantern others can borrow, and how to serve through the avian network without turning service into spectacle. Private guidance is the seed. Participation is the tree. When your notes show steady correspondences and your questions have grown smaller and cleaner, the practice grows a public shape. You stop asking only, "What should I do?" and start asking, "What belongs here?" The difference is subtle in language and unmistakable in feel. Personal asks collapse inward. Service widens the field. Birds respond to the widening. What used to be chance visits becomes a rhythm around places you tend. You find yourself being present when presence is needed, before a storm, on a neighbor's hardest morning, at the river, the day the plastic bloomed. The avian network is not a hotline for heroics. It is a mesh of attention that steadies a place when enough of us are coherent at once. Start with home ground, a courtyard, a roof, a park edge, a footpath, a school field, a strip of verge you walk daily. Choose one as your circle of care. You do not need a committee, you need a habit. Arrive at roughly the same hour each week and bring your ordinary life with you. The breath you've been practicing, the lamp behind the breastbone, the soft mantra that says, "Available." Ask nothing at first. Stand or sit where you can see sky and hold the place in your attention as if it were a small child falling asleep. No commentary, no fixing. Let your breath slow until the edges of your awareness extend a few meters further than usual. Watch which species check in. You'll learn the normal. Sparrows doing sparrow business, starlings braiding the air, pigeons arguing about crumbs, maybe a raptor on the far line. Normal is gold. It is the baseline against which meaningful shift is seen. Shifts are the quiet early warnings. The chorus thins before a heat wave. The finches go silent an hour before a hard storm. Swallows take a different line the evening before wind snaps. In cities, gulls show earlier over inland rooftops when river flow turns and bins overflow. Corvids congregate on one building when construction awakens a nest site. None of this makes you a prophet. It makes you useful. Your steadiness lets you notice before others do, and noticing in time is half of care. You can text a neighbor to bring pets in. You can move lightweight pots. You can close a window before a scatter of fledglings test their wings into your living room. The field likes when you use foresight for mercy. There is a controversial capacity you will touch if you keep the posture clean. Intention broadcast. Do not spook yourself with words. It is simply the act of holding a calm, clear state and offering that steadiness to a place in trouble, fire line, flood edge, hospital ward, without story, agenda, or self-importance. People have been doing this forever under other names: prayer, metta, focused, attention, collective silence. The protocol does not crown a new magic. It refines your instrument, so the offering travels further. A handful of us in different streets sitting at the same 5 minutes each Sunday, breathing, lamp steady, mantra, quiet, naming one location and asking balance to find it. That is not wishful thinking. It is applied attention in chorus. You will not see fireworks. You will hear from a friend who slept through their panic for the first time in months. You will find that the fledgling who would have hit your glass didn't. You will notice your own day move around the cared-for place with a strange ease, as if the world always rewards those who remember it is one body. Locating the lost asks for the strictest humility because it sits at the edge of vanity and grief. Sometimes, when a pet is missing or a person has not returned, people will ask for a reading. You can be of use without becoming a stage. Do the basic protocol. Ask once for the cleanest next move for those searching. Watch which bird behaves out of pattern. A jay may shout the edge you keep ignoring. A raptor may hold a line toward a ridge. A robin may hop to the window you forgot to check. Act on small, present tense instructions. Never turn an encounter into a dramatic proclamation that inflames hope or despair. If nothing comes, the clean act is to coordinate, to print, to walk, to sit with those waiting, to make soup. The field frowns on spectacle here. Keep your hands warm and your words simple. Participation has a public face that looks unromantic and exactly right. Citizen science. Your notes are already a ledger. Some of them can become data. Dawn song dates. First and last swallows. Nesting attempts you notice on your route. Window strikes you prevented by moving a plant. Small counts, repeated over seasons, teach you the real story of a place in a way the news cannot. Many cities and countries have platforms where ordinary people log sightings and patterns. Upload when it helps. If platforms aren't your style, make a little calendar for your street and share what you see with 3 neighbors. Finches are back, owls calling again in the school trees, 2 blackbirds building in the hedge. Let's keep the cats in at dawn for a week. This is how folklore becomes ecosystem literacy. This is how people remember they live somewhere, not nowhere. Service will test your glamour reflex. If you find yourself wanting to be the person with answers, the person who knows the code, breathe. Walk it off. Come back smaller. The cleanest helpers are boringly consistent. They refill water in heat, seed in frost where it's lawful, and pick plastic when wind has had its way. They call the council once about a broken light near a roost. They talk to the caretaker about the hedge trimming schedule. They speak gently to a neighbor who scatters bread in a way that crowds and sickens birds and offer better alternatives. They don't try to win. They try to keep a little patch of the world unconfused. Your circle of care can widen beyond species into people because attention is fungible. The same breath that tunes you to a hawk's spiral can tune you to a friend's frayed voice. You'll notice the micro-hesitation before someone says, "I'm fine." You'll hear the way a colleague has stopped laughing in meetings. You will not diagnose. You will lean. You'll bring a thermos to a parent on the bench by the swings. You'll offer a lift on a wet night. This is not mission creep. This is the point. Thoth's protocol is not an escape hatch from humanity. It is a way back into a humane pace, where your senses belong to more than your calendar. Coordination multiplies modest acts. If 3 of you in different flats agree to stand at your windows at dusk on Thursdays and breathe for the same 10 minutes, your building changes tone. If 5 of you in a neighborhood pick a corner of park and hold it each weekend for a month, the corner changes reputation. You'll see it in small ways first. Less litter stays on the ground. The wind lingers in a friendlier way. Children return to a patch they'd stopped using. Public steadiness has a scent. Places recognize it and grow toward it the way plants bend to a window. Keep your vow near your calendar so participation doesn't become performance. The question that keeps you honest is small and sharp. What act of care belongs to me today? If the answer is glamorous, test it. If the answer is humble, send the email. Fix the mesh on the gutter. Stand still in the courtyard for 7 minutes. Move the plant that attracts collisions. Do that. The sky rarely asks us to be special. It asks us to be reliable. When enough of us are reliable, storms still come, but fewer roofs lift. Grief still visits, but fewer people wait alone. Birds still die, because life does, but more hatchlings see a second sunrise, and more mornings sound like a login tone instead of an alarm. You may worry that you are making it up. Good. Keep worrying. It's a fine buffer against delusion. That's why you log. That's why you keep your asks small and your actions simple. Over months, the ledger will make the case for you. You'll see how your quiet hours lined up with other people's quiet returns, how the water you kept filled became part of a route birds learned, how your own angers softened on the days you stood for a place and not for a point. When service gathers enough lines, it draws a shape around you, a person whose presence calms weather. That is not a title. It is a job description the world has always had open. This is what the ancients meant when they called such work magic, not fireworks, not tricks. Applied attention in chorus with a responsive ecology. In the final part, we'll name it that way so the modern mind can keep up. How coherence, pattern recognition, and behavior weave the mechanism, and we'll close with a simple choice you can make each day to let the conversation continue without superstition and without apology. Call it magic if you like, but what you've been practicing is disciplined attention in a responsive ecology. The breath sequence isn't a charm, it's a way to raise vagal tone and shift your body from fight or flight into a state where perception widens. The golden lamp is a focusing image that reduces noise in the default mode network and steadies interoception, the felt sense inside your body, so signals from outside aren't drowned by inner static. The mantra is a metronome. It entrains your rhythms, and anything coherent, from a choir to a murmuration, prefers coherence. When your physiology moves from scattered to steady, you change what you can notice. Pattern recognition switches on. Small becomes legible. Guidance stops needing a trumpet because you're finally able to hear the flute. Bird behavior is not mystical. It's exquisitely lawful. Species have repertoires, calls, flights, pauses shaped by weather, season, hunger, mating, risk. When you remove your internal interference, you can tell the difference between a jay's ordinary racket and a clean, bounded blast tied to the beat of your question. Predictive processing, the brain's habit of guessing what comes next, can mislead you when you're stressed. It calms when you count and breathe. That's why this protocol keeps returning to slow exhale. Fewer false positives, fewer fantasies, more signal. The knowing that arrives is not a voice booming from the sky. It's your nervous system integrating external choreography with your cleaned-up inner state and presenting a direction your body can keep. The ethics are not religious garnish. They are the fail-safes that keep a human from turning resonance into extraction. Gratitude prevents the consumer reflex that wants nature to perform on cue. Reciprocity keeps the loop from collapsing into take, consent, yours. And the fields stops curiosity from slipping into theft. Humility avoids the two classic errors, declaring everything a sign or declaring nothing a sign. The middle path is quieter. Some things speak. My job is to be the kind of person who can listen without demanding a show. If you need a modern metaphor, think of the world as a mesh network and attention as bandwidth. Most days we stream ourselves at maximum bitrate with 8 tabs open and wonder why nothing lands clean. This protocol throttles noise. You lower the bitrate of distraction so subtle packets can pass. A pause in the wind, 3 calls in even time, a glide that starts exactly as your jaw unclenches. That choreography isn't superstition. It's correlation meeting readiness. When the pattern repeats across days under integrity, you treat it like any other robust signal. You act, you verify, you refine. The ledger you've been keeping is your laboratory. Over weeks, it will make a stronger case than any speech. You'll see that raptors visit when you're about to mistake speed for clarity. You'll notice how gratitude and finches braid. You'll track how corvids coincide with endings you finally honor, and how calm follows clean action like a shadow that has stopped trying to be seen. You'll also see where you were wrong, and how apologizing, simplifying, and returning with smaller questions reopens what impatience closed. That is science at human scale. Observation, hypothesis, test, humility, iteration. What you call Thoth in this film is a way to honor the ancestry of this technology. Civilizations encoded these workings as gods and rites so the knowledge would survive fire and fashion. You don't have to believe in an ibis-headed scribe for the map to work. You only have to respect that people who lived closer to weather-refined methods we are relearning through breathwork, attention training, and ecological literacy. The names change. The physics of coherence doesn't. Let the close be practical. Use the protocol for small decisions. Not just, should I move cities, but, is today for reaching out? Do I take the first train or the second? Do I speak now or soften first? When you live that way, ordinary days get a little oiled. You leave 5 minutes earlier without knowing why and miss the chaos by 4. You refill a bowl and a thirsty beak arrives 10 minutes later as if you'd made an appointment. You step back from an argument because a dove landed inside your space and held your gaze for 3 breaths, and you remember that belonging matters more than being right. None of this makes you special. It makes you available. The mature arc is simple, from watcher to participant, from personal reassurance to public steadiness, from get to give. Your vow, whether spoken by water and 7 feathers or folded quietly into your calendar, shows up as reliability. The network trusts reliable people. So do neighbors. So do birds. Steady is the whole technology. There will still be storms. You will still be wrong some days. But you won't be lost in the same way because you've recovered a compass that doesn't run on opinion. Breath sets the tuner. Light opens the field. A quiet word builds the bridge. Ethics keep the gate. Then life meets you halfway with choreography that is small, timely, and strangely kind. The result isn't a spectacle. It's a life that moves with fewer sharp edges and more honest yeses. If this work has given you something real, don't leave the deeper transmissions to chance. Our free newsletter is where we share the parts we can't publish here and practical field notes that keep your practice clean. Skip it, and you will miss the patterns that change pace from hobby to craft. For a limited time, when you enter your email via the link in the description, you'll also receive a free ebook copy of our book, something to keep by your notebook as the ledger grows. If you feel this on a deep level, comment, "I get the code."